Jax Harlan wiped the sweat from his brow with the back of a grease-streaked hand and squinted up at the twin suns beating down on the scrapyard. Out here on the edge of the rim world of Calyx 9, the heat was merciless, the dust endless. The work never stopped. He was 32. Broad-shouldered from years of hauling engine blocks and wrestling with rusted hull plating, dark hair perpetually falling into hazel eyes that had seen too many broken dreams. His coveralls were patched in a dozen places, his boots held together by hope and duct tape, and his only real companion was a half-feral shop dog named Bolt, who spent most days sleeping under the shade of a derelict freighter wing. Jax owned Harlan's Salvage and Repair, a sprawling junkyard on the outskirts of Dusthaven, the planet's only settlement worth the name. People came from 3 systems away when their hyperdrives coughed, their grav plates failed, or their life support decided to take an unscheduled vacation. Jax could fix anything with moving parts, human tech, Virani coils, even the occasional illegal Keth smuggler drive, as long as it wasn't too proud to run on spit, prayer, and a little creative swearing. That afternoon, the silence of the yard was broken by the low, wounded thrum of an approaching ship. Jax shaded his eyes and watched a sleek, midnight black shuttle limp over the dunes. It wasn't any design he recognized. No registry markings, no corporate logos, no visible thrusters, just smooth, organic curves that looked grown rather than built, and a faint shimmer along the hull that made his teeth itch the way poorly shielded. Psionic tech sometimes did. The ship settled unevenly on the cracked landing pad outside his workshop, kicking up a cyclone of red dust. The engines whined down into silence, and for a long moment nothing happened. Then a side hatch irised open with a soft hiss, and a figure stepped out. She was tall as Lee-6 to his skin, color of polished obsidian shot through with faint silver veins that caught the light like star trails. Her hair was a cascade of white-gold strands that moved as if underwater, and her eyes were a luminous violet that seemed to hold entire nebulae. She wore a long, hooded cloak of some iridescent fabric that shifted color with every breath of wind, and beneath it, what looked like lightweight armor of the same grown-not-built material as the ship, Jax had seen plenty of exotic travelers in his time mercenaries. Smugglers, off-duty naval officers, even a few minor nobles slumming it on the rim, but nothing like her. She moved with a grace that made the dusty ground seem unworthy of her feet. Yet there was something careful in her posture, as though she was favoring her left side. Bolt growled low in his throat. Jax hushed him with a hand. "Easy, boy." The woman stopped a respectful distance away and inclined her head. Her voice, when she spoke, was musical, layered, like 3 harmonies woven together. "I seek the one called Harlan, master of machines." "That's me," Jax said, wiping his hands on a rag that hadn't been clean in years. Jax Harlan. "You got engine trouble, eh?" "Malfunction," she replied, glancing back at her ship. "It will not answer my call." Jax whistled low. "Neurolinked controls?" That was high-end, restricted tech. "Mind if I take a look?" She hesitated, then nodded. "I would be grateful." Up close, the shuttle was even stranger. No seams, no bolts, no access panels, just smooth living hull. When Jax laid a gloved hand on it, the surface pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. He felt a tingle run up his arm, and for a split second, he thought he heard a whisper in a language he didn't know. "Ship's alive?" he asked. In a manner of speaking, she said quietly, "It is bonded to me." Jax raised an eyebrow, but didn't press. Customers had their secrets. He had his ethics. "I'll need to get inside. Hope you don't mind me tracking dust on your carpet." "Ah!" A faint smile touched her lips, perfect lips, he noticed against his will. "Dust is the least of my concerns." Inside, the cockpit was a single, seamless pod. No chairs, just contoured resting places that molded to the occupant. The controls were holographic glyphs floating in midair, and the main console was dark, unresponsive. Jax pulled his diagnostic pad, but the moment he jacked it in, the pad sparked and died. "Well, that's new," he muttered. The woman still unnamed watched him intently. Your tools are crude. Thanks, Jax said dryly. They get the job done. Usually. He set the pad aside and did it the old-fashioned way. Hands, eyes, ears. He listened to the faint hum of dormant systems, felt for heat variances, traced power flows by instinct. After 20 minutes, he found a hairline fracture in what passed for the ship's neural cortex. Hidden deep in the starboard nacelle. Gotcha, he said. Your linkage nodes cracked. Probably took a micrometeor hit. I can graft a bypass, reroute through secondary pathways. It'll fly, but it won't sing like it used to until you get a full biotic replacement. She exhaled a sound almost of relief. Can you do this here? With what I've got in the shop? Yeah. Take me a day, maybe 2. You got somewhere to stay in Dusthaven? I'd not planned that far. Jax shrugged. Town's rough. Motels got fleas bigger than my thumb. You're welcome to the cot in my office. It's clean, mostly. Her violet eyes studied him for a long moment, as if weighing his soul on invisible scales. Finally she nodded. I accept your hospitality, Jax Harlan. Name's just Jax. He offered a hand, realized it was still filthy, wiped it again, then offered it anyway. She took it. Her skin was warm, impossibly smooth, and the silver veins under the surface glowed faintly at the contact. You may call me Lyra. No surname, no title, just Lyra. That night, Jax gave her the narrow cot in the back office, took the floor himself with a bedroll, and listened to the unfamiliar rhythm of alien breathing on the other side of the thin wall. Bolts curled up at the foot of the cot, traitorously accepting ear scratches from their guest. Jax lay awake a long time, staring at the cracked ceiling and wondering how a simple repair job had suddenly become the strangest week of his life. The repair took 3 days, not 2. On the first day, Lyra watched him work with a fascination that made Jax self-conscious. She asked questions sharp, insightful ones about human engineering principles, jury rigging, the poetry of making broken things whole again. She spoke little of herself, deflecting with graceful ease whenever he probed. On the second day, a sandstorm rolled in, turning the sky the color of dried blood and trapping them inside the workshop. They shared a pot of synth coffee and the last of Jax's smoked rations while wind howled outside. Lyra told him stories not of her people, but of stars she'd seen, nebulae that sang in radio waves, worlds where gravity danced. Jax told her about growing up on Calyx 9, losing his parents to a mining collapse, learning engines from an old Varani mechanic who'd taken pity on a hungry kid. By the 3rd day, the bypass was in place. The shuttle's systems flickered back to life, responding to Lyra's touch with a soft, grateful chime. Jax stepped back, wiping his hands one last time. She'll get you home, he said. Might feel a little sluggish on the high-dimensional jumps till the node fully integrates, but she's space-worthy. Lyra stood in the cockpit, eyes closed, communing silently with her ship. When she opened them again, there was something new in her expression: regret. Perhaps you have done more than repair metal and crystal, she said softly. You have restored harmony to a living bond. My people would call this a debt that cannot be repaid with mere currency. Jax shrugged, uncomfortable. Just doing my job, no? She stepped closer. You did it with care. With respect? That is rare. She reached into her cloak and produced a small, translucent orb, the size of a marble. Inside, a tiny galaxy swirled. A token, she said, pressing it into his palm. It will bring you no wealth, but if you ever have true need, speak into it, and I will hear. Jax turned the orb over in his calloused fingers. It was warm, alive. Thanks. I'll keep it safe. Lyra hesitated at the hatch. I must go. There are obligations waiting. Yeah, Jax said. Safe travels, Lyra. She boarded. The hatch closed. The shuttle lifted silently into the ochre sky and vanished into the haze. Jax stood there a long time, feeling strangely hollow. Life returned to normal, or tried to. Ships came and went. Dust storms raged. Bolt chased lizards. But the little galaxy orb sat on his workbench, glowing faintly whenever he looked at it too long, 3 months later, everything changed. It began with the arrival of the imperial battlesphere. One moment the sky was empty. The next, a ship the size of a small moon hung above Dusthaven, eclipsing both suns. Its hull was the same midnight black organic material as Lyra's shuttle, but writ large kilometers of graceful curves bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Shuttles poured from it like angry hornets. Descending on the settlement, Jax was under a freighter when the first shockwave hit. He scrambled out to see armed figures in iridescent armors storming the street stall. Obsidian-skinned warriors with violet eyes. They moved with lethal precision, rounding up the local militia before anyone could fire a shot. Then a final shuttle landed directly in his yard. The hatch opened, and Lyra stepped out, this time in full regal armor that shimmered like captured starlight, a circlet of living crystal on her brow. Behind her marched a phalanx of guards. Jax's mouth went dry. Lyra? She stopped a few paces away, expression unreadable. Jax Harlan. The guards knelt. Jax blinked. What the hell is going on? I am Lira'veth Sylarion, Empress-Apparent of the Aelthar Dominion, heir to the eternal throne, voice of the 9 harmonies. Her voice carried the same layered music, but now it rang with authority that could command fleets. 3 months ago, I fled an assassination attempt orchestrated by my aunt, the regent. My ship was damaged, my guards dead. I hid on this remote world to effect repairs and plan my return. Jax stared. You're an empress? I was in exile. Now I reclaim what is mine. She stepped forward, eyes softening just a fraction. But I returned because of a promise. You saved my life, Jax Harlan. In doing so, you saved an empire. The Dominion stands on the brink of civil war. My aunt's faction grows bolder. I need someone I trust, someone no court politics can touch at my side. Jax laughed, a short, incredulous sound. Lady, your majesty, you need admirals, spies, generals. I fix engines. You fix broken things, she countered. My empire is broken. Trust is scarce. Loyalty is bought or coerced. You acted with honor when you had no reason to. That is rarer than any fleet. One of the guards produced a small case. Lyra opened it to reveal a circlet smaller than her own, forged of the same living crystal. By ancient law, the one who restores the heir's harmony may claim a place at court. I offer you the rank of first artificer of the realm, with authority over all shipyards and engineering guilds. Come with me, Jax. Help me heal what is fractured. Jax looked around at his dusty yard, his patched tools, his sleeping dog. Then at the battlesphere, blotting out the sky. And if I say no? Lyra's face showed no anger, only quiet acceptance. Then I will leave you in peace, and the debt will remain forever unpaid on my soul. Silence stretched between them. Jax exhaled slowly. Bolt comes too? A genuine smile broke across her regal features for the first time since her return. Of course, he looked down at the galaxy orb still in his pocket, glowing brighter than ever. Guess I always did want to see more stars up close. Lyra extended her hand not as an empress to a subject, but as one person to another. Jax took it. As the shuttle lifted off, carrying him away from the only world he'd ever known, Jax watched Calyx 9 shrink beneath him. Dusthaven's lights flickered like dying embers. Ahead, the battlesphere's hangar yawned open, a gateway to wonders and dangers he could scarcely imagine. Lyra sat beside him, no longer hiding who she was. Nothing will ever be the same again, she said quietly. Jax grinned, grease still under his fingernails, heart hammering with equal parts terror and exhilaration. Yeah, he said, but maybe that's not a bad thing. Somewhere deep in the ship, Bolt barked once in agreement as they jumped into the star-streaked voidward war, toward peace. Toward a future neither a hidden empress nor a simple mechanic could have foreseen the day their paths first crossed in a dusty scrapyard on the edge of nowhere.